The Nike Air Zoom Tempo Next Percent are running shoes that are banned for use in competition. So what's it like to actually run in them? The Air Zoom Tempo Next Percent is a running shoe featuring technology which was developed for Eliud Kipchoge's sub 2 hour marathon record. The Tempos share a lot of the same technology featured on the Vapor and Alphafly race shoes. However, they are designed purely for training. I've had mine for a little over 2 months, and in that time I've done over 300 Ks. The specs. The Tempos feature 2 Zoom AirPods at the forefoot, designed to give you greater energy return. Unlike previous Zoom airbags, these have connecting fibres, which distribute the force and control the compression of the pod. This is actually what allows them to return energy more efficiently. Unlike the air cushions featured in the other Nike trainers, these ones are isolated from the midsole. Normally the air pockets are surrounded by the midsole foam, but in the Tempos, they're in almost direct contact with the ground. There's a little bit of sole in between. The Tempos have a full-length carbon composite plate in the midsole. This is similar to what you get on the race shoes, but it's less rigid. The idea behind this is that you build up strength in your foot while you train. Then, when it comes to race day and you slip on those more rigid plate shoes, you're going to go even faster. Unlike the race shoe, the Tempo has 2 different types of foam in the midsole. The Zoom X foam from the race shoe does feature in the Tempo, but only in the forefoot, with the heel being made from the more durable React foam. The one-piece upper is made from their super lightweight Flyknit material and features offset laces. The sole is a somewhat minimal covering of rubber, said to be good for most surfaces. They have a 10mm heel to toe drop, and in my 7.5 men's size, they weigh 256 grams. What makes them illegal? Following the sub 2 hour marathon record, World Athletics issued new regulations banning any shoe with a sole thicker than 40mm, as well as banning any shoe with more than 1 plate. This is where the Tempo falls foul of the new regulations. The overall height of the sole is 46mm on the Tempos, making them illegal for use in competition. Apart from that, they're fine, and whether or not you'd get disqualified as an amateur from an event, I don't know. But personally, I wouldn't risk it. How do they fit? Just to look at, the Tempos are pretty crazy. And let me tell you, the first time you put them on, they feel just as crazy as they look. The Flyknit upper is super lightweight and holds them really snug to your feet, with plenty of stretch in the one-piece tongue section. The inside of the heel has additional support, as well as a padded lip, which helps to hold them firm to your Achilles heel. This stops the shoe from slipping at the heel and avoided any rubbing on my feet even on the first wear. The sensation you get when you're walking around in them when you first put them on is a strange one. You're very aware of that additional height and all the technology underneath your feet. Once you get used to them though, I found them to be very comfortable. What are they actually like to run in? Before the Tempos, I'd always run in something like a free run or similar, nothing too adventurous or crazy, basically something with an ultra flexible sole. The Tempos are completely different. The minute I put them on, I felt like I had trampolines strapped to my feet. You get an instant spring from the combination of the carbon plate in the midsole to the Zoom AirPods at the forefoot. They've got a very rigid feel to the sole, especially compared to something like a free run. The drop and curvature of the sole sort of forces you onto your toes, rolling you forward. This encourages you to push the Tempos, and the more you push them, the more they respond, and this is ultimately reflected in your pace. One thing I have noticed when running in the Tempos is they are very loud. You get this kind of slap every time your foot goes down. This can raise a few eyebrows when you're running up behind people, but you personally will get used to it. If you're running with music, then it's not really a problem. How fast are they? Well, Let's start out by saying the first time I wore them, I set a new 10k PB. Now, this may have been a bit of a placebo effect, but that's continued. Let's take a look at two of my recent runs. The first one is a 19k run. I hit an average pace of 4 minutes 38 per k and a total time of 1 hour 28 minutes. Not too bad. This was run in the Pegasus Trail 2 Gore-Tex, although most of it was on road. The very next run I did was in the Tempo. This was on a 20k route. The route was exactly the same, except I went an extra k at the end. The average pace for this run was 4 minutes 23 with an overall time of 1 hour and 27 minutes. That's over a minute faster on the total time with an extra k on the total distance. And if you compare the two runs, k for k on the first 19k, which remember is exactly the same route, it's the same story. The tempos just blow the Pegasus completely out the water. What about a larger comparison? I got my tempos at the end of October. So let's take the month of September, run completely without the tempos, and compare it to the month of November where I only ran in the tempos. In September, I ran 10 times for a total of 165 Ks. The average pace across all those runs was 4 minutes and 43 per K. By the time we get to November, I ran 8 times and a total distance of 131k, so a little bit less, but not too much. The average pace across these 8 runs was 4 minutes 23 seconds. That's 20 seconds quicker than my previous running shoe in the Tempo. And just to be thorough, let's have a look across all of the shoes I have distance logged for. The Tempo is at the top, by far the fastest, an average pace there of 4 minutes and 25, and that's for 307 Ks. This is followed by the React Miler at 429, but as you can see there, I only did a little over 40k in those. They were not my favourite. Next is the Experience 8. These have an average pace of 4 minutes and 48, and as you can see, I covered a lot of distance in these. I did nearly 1500k. Finally, the Freerun Plus, 5 minutes per k and just over 500 Ks. Now I should say this list has been compiled over years, and as such my pace will have gone up and down with my fitness. Sometimes I run more, sometimes I run less. But suffice to say, I am pretty confident in saying that the Tempo is the fastest running shoe I've ever worn. How durable are they? I tend to underpronate when I run, and therefore I've seen significant wear on the outer heel of the sole, to the point where I'm actually beginning to see the foam come through the sole. I can also see wear at the forefoot, although I've done over 300k, so I would expect to see some wear. Estimates vary on how often you should change your running shoes, but I would expect these to get me into 500k at least, although you can tell by my Experience 8 that I'm not always the best at changing my shoes when I should. What's the overall verdict? The Tempos are now my go-to running shoe. They allow me to run further and faster than I ever have before. Whilst they are expensive, you can definitely feel that technology at work when you're running in them. And after all, that's what you're paying for. The only problem with them is they're kind of a gateway drug. Now that I've had the Tempos, I'm going to want to run in the Vaporflies or the Alphaflies when it comes to race day. And they're like £100 more expensive than even the Tempos. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you want more of this type of content, then hit that subscribe button. While you're down there, why not hit the bell? Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.